I got you this sunflower, my ethereal beauty. Now let us walk merrily through this rural village into the enchanted meadows and hang out with the woodland folk, said the pseudo cottagecore person that is about to do some of their best gaslighting to date before going back to their finance job in the city centre. Zooey mama, cottagecore, what a fun concept this is. And I didn't just buy this flower for this video. I had already brought myself sunflowers early in the week because they make me really happy. And I don't know if that intro was actually any good, but I needed an intro to the video topic of today, which is cottagecore. I'm gonna put my flowers back now. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Cowder's Life, and on this channel we do video essays talking about things we see on the internet, and then we will discuss it as a community down in the comment section below. So if that sounds like fun for you, please feel free to subscribe. Yoo-hoo, we're trying to beat this rear-old ratio. Why did I say yoo-hoo? That was just not necessary. Anyways, yeah, if you're not new here, hello again, friend. It's me, Cow, and I'm wearing a shirt. Yeah, and this is the Beyblade I want to show you today, Griffin. It is a lovely color of blue, and it's pretty cool. I like it a lot, although it seems to lose lots of its battles. But despite that, still one of my favorite Beyblades, just because I like the creature in the middle, and I like the color blue. Simple as that. Anyways, I hope you're well. Let's crack on with today's video. First, let me give you a little bit more information on cottagecore so we're all basically on the same level playing field before we start discussing the talking points around cottagecore. Say cottage more, Cow. Cottagecore. Cottagecore is an aesthetic and cultural movement that celebrates an idealized rural lifestyle. It's really rooted in the nostalgia of simple living and the charm that comes with that. It emphasizes the harmony with nature, which is so different from the fast-paced city life, getting up at 6 a.m, living to work instead of working to live. You've always got to be switched on and in the matrix, bro. It's kind of like the complete opposite of that, giving yourself time to breathe and get amongst nature. It also emphasizes an importance on traditional crafts like baking, gardening, and knitting. All really quite fun things, right? And it also comes along with this visual style which is quite influenced by the Victorian era. This subculture is absolutely alive, booming and thriving on TikTok, where users share their content of escapism, content that encapsulates the beauty and tranquility of countryside living, as this form of relatable escapism for the complexities many of us face in living within cities, living within the busy capitalistic grind of it all, you know? I feel the first talking point we should discuss is idealization versus reality. I feel on like TikTok, cottagecore is often presented as this real idealized view of rural life. And sadly, in reality, those idealized views don't really align with the practical reality of those that actually live in rural areas, where life is far from this angelic fantasy. Cottagecore's visuals are always romanticizing nature and how harmonious it can be, chasing your little duckies around your garden, seeming to have all the time in the world, baking lovely things, and then sitting outside in your beautiful, tranquil garden. I think we would all want that, right? That just looks like ethereal peace. Give me a slice of that cake. And the whole thing, basically, I want that. However, this glorification of rural life kind of completely ignores the real challenges of what it's actually like in the countryside. Historically, living in the countryside is associated with like economic hardships, lack of services. The infrastructure famously isn't as good. And just like the real labor involved in maintaining a farm and the maintenance that just comes with having to do more yourself living in the countryside. This TikTok makes countryside life look beautiful, but the reality is if you've got livestock, you're gonna be getting up at 5 a.m. to look after the cows. And well, if you can find time to also bake some amazing goods in between all of that animal care, you are incredible. You must have more than 24 hours in the day. That is impressive. I'm trying to be like you. I would like to get on your level, Zooey mama. However, I'm not trying to paint cottagecore as this really naive, complete glorification of something that isn't true. The way I see cottagecore is just real clearly an escapism for people, right? I don't think for a moment that people that enjoy the aesthetic and enjoy the glorification of rural life, maybe because they live in a city, I don't think for a second they're saying that farm work and such isn't easy task for all. I think it's more just like the fantasization of just doing something different from your every day-to-day life. I feel in the city, we just feel like cogs in a much larger machine, punching in and punching out of our day jobs, coming home tired. The thought of this existence out there for yourself where you have time to think and breathe and just get amongst the smell of like wet trees, smelling the flowers, feeling all the different textures around you. Sounds dreamy, right? Feeling like what the different barks feel like. Having time to just do all of that sounds wholesome AF. Sign me up once again. Little side note, that is actually my dream in life. I do want to go back to the countryside. I'm from the countryside and I would like to go back there. I'm not really built for this city life, but I'm here for my job and my career. Yippee! But I am going to return to the countryside. Not in a cottagecore way, just in a, I find city life quite overstimulating and I kind of just want to go back to a quiet area. Anyways, back to the point, I feel many of us in cities or in busy built up areas can't actually afford to, go out to the countryside and chill. So having this aesthetic or this universe that you interact with on TikTok can just give you a sense of belonging and let your imagination run wild, and that can help you deal with the real life problems of, being a city dweller. However, I suppose conversely, one could also note there's irony in the fact that it's meant to be this thing centered around peacefulness and relaxation, but a lot of the content seems so social media ready, so well shot that it seems these content creators are almost competing to who can create the most Hollywoodified rural aesthetic lifestyle possible and then post it on the internet as some sort of relaxing, tranquil thing when they would have had to have set up their phones, their lighting, their camera equipment. It really feels like it's been social media-ified and slightly missing the point of tranquilness and being at one with nature and giving yourself a second to breathe. But that really isn't me taking shots at cottagecore. I think it's more like everything, on the internet just becomes social media packaged, and people want to get likes, clicks and views, for things like validation and such, which isn't a bad thing whatsoever. It's very normal. So you find content creators creating very aesthetically beautiful content, and that is totally okay. I just can see why people will say there's irony in that. You can just see the funny side of that is it's now gone from, trying to relax and be at one with nature to how visually pleasing can we make this look? But then I suppose the beauty of this conversation is the counterpoint to that is it's people trying to help people that do live in the city who do just want to experience that blissfulness. So you could argue that content is literally made there for people that really care about cottagecore, who are trying to help other cottagecore people that actually do live in the city and do just want to experience it. Boom, this conversation is so fun and exciting. Also, I think it's very important to consider that a lot of the people that are into cottagecore are clearly young adults. And as young adults, we often, live in the world of fantasy of, what we want to do and what we want to achieve with our life. Why? Because the capitalistic machine hasn't sunk its claws into us yet. We don't have this full-time job, so we have a slightly bit more disposable time to engage in fantasy and let our mind wander about who we are and what we want to be with our lives. It's fun, it's good, and I think at that level it's quite harmless. Do I think it's an inaccurate depiction of rural life? Yes, because these are not typically the things you wear in the countryside. It's more like big smelly wellies and the jacket that you got handed down from your older siblings that has holes in. How do I know that, you ask? Well, that was reality. But that's just countryside living. And it was good fun getting mucky and climbing trees. It's very fun. The next talking point I'd like to discuss when thinking about cottagecore is exclusivity and accessibility. I think when we look at cottagecore, the lifestyle and aesthetic it promotes can appear very exclusive at face value. The ones that are actually making the cottagecore lifestyle stuff are the ones that can afford the leisure and resources to engage in such activities. Going away for the weekend, dressing up as this fantasy character away from the realms of reality, or even living in that type of world, right? To live in the countryside now, at least in England, a lot of the time is a real big privilege because the jobs and opportunities there aren't as in many as they are in the city. So unless your family were born there and you've always been there, to move out to the countryside, it's just not a feasible thing most can do because their job is required for them to be in the city. So I suppose there's humor in the sense that it's painted as this simple, rural, peaceful, tranquil lifestyle, when to actually be a part of it properly and be one of these content creators, it typically requires a fair bit of privilege and financial freedom to do so. Because like I said, this is so removed from the realities of actual rural living. This is picturesque rural living. This is a premium that only a few could subscribe to in reality. And I suppose that side of cottagecore can be quite exclusionary to lower income individuals or those from like city environments who might just not have access to nature and the means to participate in these popularized activities, like, the making things and the baking. All of this stuff costs money, time, and equipment. And at this point, you might be thinking, okay, Cal, well, what are you suggesting to combat this? How are you suggesting we make cottagecore more inclusive? Well, I suppose for people that don't have access to these resources to, go off and live this cottagecore lifestyle whilst living in the city and such, it's raising awareness of community gardens and green spaces that allow people to engage in nature and the environment and, partake in gardening so they can experience this cottagecore life too. There's also things that big cottagecore content creators could do, like virtual workshops and tutorials, teaching things like traditional crafts. This provides a place for the people that want to learn more about the cottagecore lifestyle to actually have access to resources and outlets where they can engage in cottagecore-like activities. But it does seem like on TikTok there are many who are offering their resources and information on cottagecore, giving suggestions and helping one another, living harmoniously in the digital age, while still keeping to its cottagecore ethos. And I see people, heavily critique cottagecore and be like, well, why is it on TikTok if they want this rural life? Well, I think with any subculture movement, it's about adapting to the modern world, and, social media is a huge part of all our lives. So it's operating within those realms while staying true to your roots, sharing knitting, cooking and gardening tips on this platform as they all have a shared interest in this lifestyle. Even if it is just for escapism, they have this shared interest together, and it's good that they're using modern day media to connect them. However, another fair critique on cottagecore, which makes it seem very exclusive and a bit of a barrier to entry for some, is the real lack of diversity and representation. It'd be nice to see the encouragement and promotion of a diverse range of voices within the cottagecore community. And in turn, this would help challenge the perception that cottagecore is a predominantly white or European club type thing. Fostering a more inclusive community that reflects the broader spectrum of experiences. There's examples of TikTok content creators who are so grateful to see basically just non-white people participating in this aesthetic. And I think that shows a real need for diversification within the community. Another interesting thing we can discuss when talking about cottagecore is cultural and historical appropriation. Some aspects of cottagecore romanticize European countryside life or historical periods without fully acknowledging the complexities and struggles of those in that time. I think the big issue that crops up when you romanticize historical periods is you can really overlook the realities of those times, such as class struggles, racial inequalities, and a lack of women's rights. I think when you look at a lot of this media, this romanticization can kind of lead to like a distorted understanding of history, where one glosses over the negative aspects of said time periods. It's kind of like this, la-di-da-di-do, it's cool because we're making it cool and trendy and social media ready, without actually acknowledging the complexities or the sensitive natures of said time periods. But no, I just want to go and bake a cake and then chase geese around my garden. To be fair, baking a cake and chasing your geese around the garden does sound like wholesome activities, but we should also be aware of what we're kind of perpetuating throughout society and the implications of said actions. Also, I just want to note I finally said implications correctly. I normally say implications, which is just incorrect. Yeah. I think within the talking point of cultural and historical appropriation, one needs to also consider authentic engagement versus superficial adoption. I think if one is going to adopt traditional garments and agricultural practices from various different cultures, right, one needs to be aware of the traditions and histories attached to said pieces. So basically what I'm saying is maybe just educating yourself on the things you are wearing or the things you are doing and engaging with representatives from the communities you're maybe taking inspiration from to gain their insights. So I think the thing is with a lot of these like picturesque, idyllic lifestyle aesthetics and subcultures is we can kind of go down these like paths of just being so excited about the thing we're doing that we don't kind of see in totality what we are doing is just a giant take fest, making it this very exclusive thing rather than what it started off as at the beginning, just as some fun form of escapism for all, right? Now it's got to be, you've got to have the CottageCore 5000s on, and you've got to look at a certain way, and you've got to have 6 different traditional talents. You've got to be this angelic, ethereal being. When you think about it like that, actually, this kind of sounds like it could be backed by Creepy Old Man Incorporated, when by that I mean capitalism. Traditional lifestyle. Now, where have we heard that being popularized before? Trad wives, wee woo, alarm bells, question mark? Another thing to discuss with these big subcultures that get very popular online is the environmental impact and like commercialization of it. Despite its nature-friendly outward look to the world, certain practices within cottagecore, like the consumption of new goods marketed as vintage, can have an adverse environmental impact. That's not to discredit the people in the cottagecore world, right? You're just enjoyers of the aesthetic and the concept, and it's a fun form of escapism for you. It's not your fault Creepy Old Man Incorporated, aka capitalism, are like, we can so take advantage of these people that just so crave escapism and make all these quirky clothes fast fashiony and then sell it to them at a fraction of the price. So of course they're gonna buy our stuff instead of the handmade stuff on Etsy. We win, yoo-hoo! And they're gonna be taking on traditional hobbies. Succulent. No. Bad. But like I said, this is not to demonize the enjoyers of cottagecore. It's just trying to operate within the realms of capitalism when you are this subculture movement that is trying to be peaceful and tranquil. Whilst they try and profit off you, oh, it's a tough gig. And also, battle for cottagecore to maintain its grassroots ethos whilst gaining mainstream attraction and battling Creepy Old Man Incorporated is no easy battle. As it becomes a more and more popular form of escapism or just thing for people to participate in, perhaps as a hobby or whatever, is the environmental impact. And with that, we need to evaluate cottagecore practices, such as the sourcing of materials for crafts, or the ecological footprint of the gardening and farming methods used. Are we participating in sustainable, eco-friendly gardening, or are we just trying to make things look as aesthetical and beautiful as possible, all in the name of clicks? Yeah. I think there's always going to be the side of these movements that is more like social media-ified, where, you know, morals may slightly go out the window, all in the name of clicks, views, likes, engagement. But to be true to the cottagecore world, you would hope that they practice eco-friendly operations that truly benefit the environment, right? Like, even if you are just part of it for the escapism, which is what seems the mass majority in this community are, they just want as a form of escapism, try and be nice to the environment while you're there. I'm not saying, you know, don't buy the cheaper clothes because it's all you can afford. I'm just saying maybe also if you are going to pick flowers and such, just be conscious of the ones you're picking. Finally, I'd like to discuss probably the most juicy, hotly contested point I see when people discuss and battle about cottagecore online, which is gender roles and ideology. It is no secret that cottagecore often features traditional gender roles. The woman partaking in traditional activities and hobbies like, you know, knitting and baking. And this, of course, can reinforce outdated stereotypes about a woman's role in society. Now, this is a hot pot of conversation because I think the reason people like cottagecore is because it's such an escapism from reality and, you know, doing these things that we picturesquely or Hollywoodly imagine in our head as these cinematic things are expressions of oneself, and it's so removed from the realities. It's fantasy, it's an escapism, and it's not reinforcing ideologies of how a woman should conduct themselves in society. Much rather basically dress up fun, goofy time with friends is what I can boil it down to. However, the counterside to that, or counterpoint perhaps, is Creepy Old Man Incorporated and far-right bros will see this content and be like, that's the sort of lady for me. And unintentionally then, cottagecore becomes conservative core with added aesthetic. Yay! Oh dear, that's not good, hey. Gosh darn it. Can't people have anything nice? No, capitalism will sink its teeth into everything. Creepy Old Man Incorporated will rub his hands together and make money off of it, while turning some fun escapism fun into conservative ideology. It's terrifying, right? It's intention versus interpretation. And another factor I should say in this conversation is like, if you are a woman and you just so happen to enjoy these hobbies and this lifestyle, that doesn't mean you are also damaging or taking away from women in general. And you're probably thinking, Cal, why the hell are you even speaking on women? I'm just trying to make the observation that I don't want my viewer to feel guilty if they do enjoy these things at all. That's never the case, because you're probably not going out there and being like, this is how a woman should live. Yeah, you should all live like me. You're not like one of those crazed trad wives trying to basically sell a lifestyle to her audience. This just happens to be the hobbies you enjoy, which is super cool. And I like that. It's fun to do the things you truly enjoy. It's just sad I see people argue online of they're taking cottagecore, which is a very woman-dominated, thing, and they're trying to make it about the men and how they're like, yeah, this is what I want a woman to be like, or they're trying to make it a conservative ideology, which is a shame because it seems to be a safe place escapism for women predominantly. So let's conclude on this hot pot of conversation, shall we? I think it's real clear that cottagecore for the vast majority offers a real appealing form of escapism from the fast-paced realities of this world. However, it is not without its complexities and controversies. As we've discussed it, and I really hope to discuss with you all in the comments section, it has its issues like idealization, accessibility, environmental impact, how it can be inferred as the enforcement of stereotypical gender roles. These things challenge the integrity of cottagecore. And though even in like IRL, in real life, I totally acknowledge it's not that deep. People can dress up like cottagecore and have fun. Of course they can. I still don't think we should ignore the conversations that can be had here though, right? Just because IRL, it's absolutely fine. There's still interesting conversations to be had, I think. And by that, I basically mean, I think it's important for fans of cottagecore to engage with the issues around it thoughtfully, ensuring that we do celebrate the picturesque aspects of it all, but also are aware of the realities of the nature, history, and cultures that cottagecore takes inspiration from. Cottagecore, hey? What a fun little aesthetic on the internet. I would now love to discuss it all with you. Please, I think it's really interesting. And at face value, good fun times to the mass majority involved. And it's not me demonizing the aesthetic at all. I think with any subculture online, it will face its trials and tribulations. And it's just about having those open discussions of how we can progress things. So let's start conversing, shall we? Yippee! And by that I just mean I'll see you all in the comment section. Please feel free to share your thoughts and opinions. Remember, you don't have to agree with me. This is all one fun, big, open conversation. I've been your boy Cattle's Life. There'll be another video essay here if you want to watch another of my videos. And I shall see you all in the next video essay. And also in the comment section. Yippee! Okay, bye!